Hi, welcome to the Men's Forum. I'm your host, Gary Costanza, and we're going to discuss tonight gender roles, changing gender roles for women and men. And tonight's guests, it's my pleasure to introduce Peter Allemano, Secretary-Treasurer of the Greater New York Chapter of the National Coalition of Free Men. Welcome, Peter. And a returning guest, Paul Adago, Men's Advocate. Tonight we're going to get into changing gender roles, as I said. In particular, we're going to start with the dating scene. Men's roles, I don't think, have changed very much at all, as far as the dating scene. We're going to possibly get into domestic roles, changing gender roles as far as the domestic life. But let's start right off the bat. Dating gender roles. In these days of equality, I have a problem with why men's roles haven't changed at all. Are we happy about this? I'm certainly not happy about it. We're still expected to do the asking, to do the paying. I haven't seen it change even 1 inch, not one bit. How about this? Early dating, especially critical to me. Really bugs me. Early dating, you just met the girl. Maybe the first date, maybe a blind date. And of course the attitude is, well, we're just friends. And I have that same attitude because we don't know each other yet. We're just friends. And of course that's usually what the woman's attitude is. We're not romantic at all yet. I don't even know you. But the problem is, why are we expected to pay for someone who's just a friend? I don't do that. I mean, I'll pay for somebody I like, or I know, a real friend of mine, but not a stranger who's actually really not even a friend. Peter, what do you think of that?
Well, Gary, I'm very much in agreement with you. I think there's a certain element of hypocrisy to it, in fact, because it seems to me that today in the 2000s, when women are earning as much as men, in many cases more than men, if we are going to be truly equals, this should be a shared responsibility. I also feel very strongly about the whole issue of initiating. It is always incumbent upon the man to ask the woman out on a date. Mm-hmm. Now, something that women have complained about, and legitimately so, in my opinion, is this feeling they sometimes get from men that they're just sex objects, that they're not three-dimensional human beings with thoughts and feelings and other characteristics for which they would like to be valued. Mm-hmm. And why do these jerks treat the women this way? It must just be because women have disdain and contempt for the female sex. And maybe some men do, but I think there's a dynamic that's going on that deserves to be considered and talked about, and that has to do with the fact that men actually are three-dimensional, thinking, feeling human beings. And frankly speaking, rejection hurts. Mm-hmm. Basically, when the man asks a woman out on a date, it's like applying for a job or a supplicant. She's in a real position of power to say yes or no. Mm-hmm. And when he is rejected, that hurts. Therefore, in order to, well, speak for myself, in order to cover up some of that hurt or to minimize it, to diminish it, I try not to think of the other person as even 100% human.
Right.
Now, if men and women could share this responsibility, if women were willing to ask men out as frequently as men ask women out, there would be, first of all, a certain amount of compassion that each sex would feel for the other person, understanding how difficult that can be and how painful it can be to experience rejection. And there would be less pressure on the man and the woman as well.
It would be beneficial to both, of course, getting away from those strict gender roles.
Well, absolutely. The woman's options would also open. Let's say that the scene is a party in someone's apartment. And men and women there, some of them know one another, some don't. Let's say that a woman sees a man she's particularly interested in, but heaven forbid that she should go over to him and start a conversation with him. That's his job. Let's say that he's actually interested in her, but on his way to the party, he stopped by his neighbor's house, finally got up the courage, and asked her out on a date and was rejected. He is stung. He is not feeling like initiating again any time this week. He has decided, at this party, I'm just going to keep to myself.
Yeah.
she loses an opportunity to date the guy that she would probably most enjoy.
Yeah.
And instead, if she's only going to be relying upon other men to approach her, maybe second choice or third choice is who she's going to have to settle with because she's not willing to take that risk.
Very good. I've always, in my thinking about the situation, the passive woman is going to end up with the aggressive man. I mean, because if the woman sits back and doesn't approach the one she wants, the level-headed, thinking, caring person, she's going to get approached by an aggressive, maybe somebody who she doesn't want. And then a lot of times women say, "Why am I stuck with these jerks?" Well, you have to take the initiative to go after the one that you like.
The women generally don't, though. They generally don't approach the men. When you're if you're at a club, the women don't come up and ask the guys to dance. As a rule, the men has to go up, introduce themselves, and ask them to dance. For the most part.
I have a little anecdote to tell from my own experience. One of my colleagues at the law firm where I work was particularly interested in another employee and was trying to drop subtle hints through her friends to him that she found him attractive and interesting so that he would come and ask her out or at least start to get to know her. And so she asked me for my advice. And I said, well, first of all, I'm delighted that you trust me enough to ask me for advice. And I said, well, Mary, I think it would be really interesting for you to do what I really admire in women who have the gumption to do this. Go up to him and say, you know, I really don't know you very well, and I haven't seen you here but a few times. My name is Mary, and this sounds kind of funny, but I'd like to ask you out and treat you to dinner and maybe a movie afterwards. Would you be available, say, this coming Friday night? And she looked at me and said, I could never do that. I have never had to ask a man out on a date in all my life.
Wow.
Women can do everything men can do?
Yeah. Apparently they don't want to. Another point I like to make is that, you know, as you said, we have feelings too. Men have feelings too. And this notion of the fragile male ego, quote unquote, guess what? It's fragile because it's been battered around, bashed time and time again. Like you said about this gentleman who's trying to get up the nerve to ask a woman out, and he just got rejected twice. And he's sick of sticking his neck out. He's fragile.
Right.
Now he's fragile. Women, just because we call the male ego fragile, we get the impression that these women are somehow stronger. Their ego can take it, but it's never been really tested to the extent that male egos have been shaken all their lives.
Well, Gary, this ties in exactly with what I was saying earlier, that compassion for the other person can really develop when you try out what it's like to be a man. Your perspective shifts completely. In fact, I really admire one of the women I work for. This is a little bit off topic, but I'll just touch briefly on it. She is the primary breadwinner for, they have no children, for her husband and herself. He does work, but it is a very fulfilling, shall we say, kind of work, which pays very little or nothing, depending on the season. And it's not an option for her to work. She has to work. And she doesn't particularly enjoy the work all the time, but it's well paying at a law firm. And I have never met a woman in her position at this law firm where I work with as much understanding for men and compassion and intuitive rapport as this woman.
That's rare. That is rare that she understands the plight of men and that she's actually helping, supporting her man and allowing him to be happy in his job.
Well, this is what, as I said, a little off topic, it's what men usually do for women, and I think that's terrific. I would like to see more women doing it for men, and when I do see that happening, and it does, there are women out there who are doing that, I take my hat off to them and I say, that is swell.
Excellent. Well, I happen to have some terms that women use when it's easy to criticize men when they don't do it right. What terms could you come up with? You know, when men don't do it right, do the initiating correctly or not to their liking. I'm not. Or maybe they might not spend enough on the date. Well,
Well,
terms I come up
okay,
with. Oh, there you
if
go.
you don't spend enough on the date, you're cheap.
There you go.
If you didn't open the door, see, some women you can open the door and some you can't. So I'm not sure we can go with that one. But you know, did you pay enough for the date? Did you go to the right restaurant? You know.
If let's say if you didn't approach quick enough, you're chicken. He's chicken.
Well, if you, well, what about approaching too quick? I mean, you don't know if
There you go.
you damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah.
Damned
heavy
if you
jerk,
do, damned if
you
you
know.
don't. How about wimpy? He's wimpy. You know, a little too slow. He didn't say the right words.
You know, it's not, again, it's not easy to walk up to somebody you don't know and start a conversation, and so maybe you might be perceived as wimpy because you didn't, as you say, come up with authority and approach somebody. On the other hand, if you come on too strong, it's, oh, he's a jerk because he came on too strong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's tough. It's a tough.
And I don't know if there's a handbook out. I guess maybe somebody, maybe there is a handbook out there about it, but I haven't come across it.
I would like to,
Go ahead.
if I may,
Yeah.
gentlemen, I would love to just interject one observation by Warren Farrell about this. Warren Farrell, one of my favorite authors on men's issues, who has an enormous amount of compassion for men and women alike. Warren says that when women hear people say exactly what you two people have been saying, they will sometimes respond by saying, but I'm giving him signals. Why doesn't he read my signals? And Farrell's response to this, I feel, is very well reasoned. The signals may be clear to you, and maybe the people who know you well, but for someone who does not know you well, they may mean nothing. He's to be understood if he makes a mistake.
Exactly.
In addition,
Yeah.
why can't we share that initiating? Why must it be a signal? Why can't you simply say what it is that you would like, or better yet, even do it, and do it for him sometimes?
And she'll be better off because she'll end up with the right person possibly.
She's likelier
And
to get what she wants.
right, and not feel exploited also. How about this notion of what exactly are men paying for when they pay for a date?
Well, for one thing, women automatically expect the men to pay for the date, at least, well, especially in the beginning. Maybe after an established relationship, it starts to maybe even up. And in my relationship, it definitely, everything's very fair.
It usually does
It's
even
very
up
fair,
once
very fair.
once you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
But I try. I make a point of not spending a lot of money, if any, on somebody I don't really know.
But then you'll be perceived as cheap.
No, but I perceive myself as being equality-minded and fair. And if she doesn't like that, or if she's just looking for someone to spend, who's going to spend money on them, then I don't want any part of that person. Some women do this as a pastime, or, getting, going on dates and having a ball at the man's expense until she happens to find the right one. Maybe I'm overstating that, but the point is, I'm not going to be taken advantage of because of my sex. Okay, the point I was trying to make is, what exactly are we paying for? Are we paying for women's company, as if the woman's company is worth your payment? And what does that make? What does that make our company? I mean, my company is equally as valuable as the woman's company. So that's where the equality comes in. My company is as valuable, I would say, and I think this is how some men expect sex in return for a date, for paying for a date, because somehow we all try to even things out, and we say, well, why am I doing this exactly? Why am I paying for this woman? I don't believe that it's right, incidentally, that a man should expect sex, but a woman shouldn't expect a man to pay for no reason. For no reason.
I agree.
That's
never been made clear to me.
Yeah.
It's one of those rituals that's sometimes referred to as, well, it's romantic for the man to pay. Well, that's a rationalization if ever there was one. And if we're supposedly busting apart the old gender roles and stepping boldly forward into a new era where the men and women stand side by side as equals, I don't know about that aspect of romance.
I have a little clip I'd like to read. This is from the single file column by Susan Dietz. She's really very fair-minded when it comes to men and women. Almost every column that I read from her supports the man equally with women. She's responding to someone called Truth or Dare, and she says, during the Valentine season, we feel a strong urge to express our innermost feelings to the object of our affection. Yet women are usually on the receiving end of their lover's generosity. So let's shake things up a bit. This is an official dare to all women in love to take the active role and send a belated Valentine's Day message to your beloved, even if it means taking a risk. Go out on a limb. Send flowers or an expensive gift to the man in your world. The object itself means a lot less than the act of giving. Romance isn't dead. It's simply overstressed from being so one-sided. You can change all that, dear sisters, and this is the time to do it. Demonstrate your adoration to its object without waiting to receive in kind. Do it. Would I steer you wrong?
I like that.
She is so good.
That's good.
Who's that again?
Susan Dietz.
Susan Dietz.
She writes a single file column. It's a syndicated column, so most newspapers get it. That's in the Newsday, by the way. Yeah, that is amazing. Hear, hear. Right?
I agree.
How about now, the way things go, actually men are supporting the restaurant industry. I mean, no one's really taken the time or the trouble to investigate exactly how the impact of dating affects the restaurant industry, the diamond industry, the jewelry industry. I would imagine it's enormous. I mean, if men all of a sudden decided that, look, we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to wait for the women to pay, and if they don't, we're not going. We're not going out to eat for a date. That's something that should be explored. How about this engagement ring thing? What is? Does anybody know the purpose of an engagement ring?
I'm sure it has its roots in tradition somewhere, but someone was telling me recently that something new about now men can have engagement rings. I'm not sure if I'm quite ready for that.
You are right.
Ready for that idea.
I have heard that. That's
and I haven't seen them. I don't know what they look like or anything.
That's interesting, but I wonder who pays for it.
Gee, the guy.
I don't know.
It would be, if the men buy the engagement rings for women, then it stands to reason that the women would buy.
Right. So maybe the roles are changing somewhat. Maybe the reason for that is that women are trying to land the man, down the aisle.
I like to think that things in the 21st century here are starting to even up a little bit. That there's more equality among the sexes.
I think it's probably somewhat happening.
I mean, they want more equality.
Yeah.
Talk about, for years you've heard how women are underpaid for equal work and stuff. But in the dating field, it seems that it's all one-sided in their favor.
Certainly.
It really is.
It's pretty obvious, yeah.
Paul, if I may interject one thing, what you said about women traditionally being underpaid for equal work.
Well, in the past anyway.
Exactly, in the past. And on average, that is true. It's very interesting to take a closer look at the total situation and to recognize that when compared to single men in the same positions, women were not underpaid. In the past, it was presumed that unequipped with a wife, a man could not aspire to rise in the hierarchy. Women were not paid less than men because they were disparaged. They were paid less because it was not presumed that they would be supporting a spouse and children. This was, for better or for worse, and I'm not one to say if it was good or bad, for better or for worse, it was a tacit agreement in the society that the man would be the provider. It made sense from that perspective that he would be paid more. If the woman is just going to be spending the money on herself, this is a detriment to the society as a whole, to whoever is at home, the children, or a spouse if she has one.
That's exactly coming to my next point. If men are expected in many ways to pay for dating, for courtship, and in marriage more than women. Maybe men should make more than women. I don't want to bring up another subject, but we have the draft. Men are forced to fight and die, and women aren't, although that's another issue. But since men are expected to do all the paying on these dates, maybe men should make a little bit more.
If I may say that there's another area where men pay more than the women, that's in divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
Usually, the man is going to pay. Not always, but a lot of the times, the man is going to pay his attorney, possibly her attorneys. That varies. Seems the men get stuck with more.
In many ways. He loses his house.
Loses his house.
He may be still liable for the mortgage. He, a lot of times, loses
at least
his
for a
kids.
while.
Now, these aren't all financial issues, but in most on most financial issues, men are expected to shoulder the greater burden. And not that I agree at all that men should earn more than women, but if this is the way it is, if this is how society enforces so-called equality, it doesn't jive with me.
Yeah.
It's not jiving at all. I want equality, and I want equal responsibility, and I expect women to take it on, and we're on our way to doing it. We're trying.
Let's hope for the best.
Let's move on to how about the domestic gender roles. The domestic gender role, I could sum it up as the provider role, because that's generally what men do in the home for the family. They're the provider. The women's movement has illuminated a lot of issues, gender issues pertaining to the domestic life, but certainly they haven't helped men's roles at all. Men's roles really haven't changed at all. Women are now free to choose whether to stay home or to go to work, and this is a dilemma to them. And when I hear this, I hear it so often, the dilemma women have to go to work or to stay home. And if they go to work, then they're going to feel like they're neglecting their kids. Well, guess what? This dilemma, what they call a dilemma, is a choice that men don't have, and something that men have been doing, as far as I know, forever, going out, providing for the family, not necessarily an enjoyable job or safe job, and having no choice to stay home at all. And guess what? You could say that he's neglecting his children. He certainly is not getting to know them. And we know that when it comes time to enter family court, that man is punished for exactly fulfilling that role as provider, because he was not the primary caretaker. So we're not going to give him custody. And maybe he's more distant from his children. And I'm one father who will say that I'm as loving and caring as any woman. I love my daughters as much as any woman could, and I don't like that I'm treated differently by society because I'm a man.
Well, for heaven's sake, if I may make a comment about
Sure.
this, I think you're bringing up a very important point, Gary. I feel very strongly that when a parent, whether it's the woman, and there are some women, not as many as men, but there are some women nowadays who are the primary breadwinners, when a parent is out of the home, working to provide for the home, the house or the apartment, the food, the clothes, the education, that in and of itself is an act of love. And it's a very self-sacrificing form of love-giving, because you don't get the moment-to-moment benefits of interacting with those children throughout the day. That's a stupendous demonstration of love. And it's something that bothers me terribly that men are not appreciated for as much as men deserve to be appreciated for.
They are not appreciated at all for it. It's sort of like the unseen sacrifice, and no one well, we're here to talk about it, but that is something that I think men are very humble about, and we don't even actually think about it. We don't even give ourselves credit for it. But the problem I have also is that when women have the choice to either go to work or stay home, that leaves who's left, which is the man, with no choice. So, you know, the man has no choice. We get what's left over. The woman,
Precisely.
we do, yes. You know, the crumbs.
We get the crumbs.
We're about running out of time. Peter, why don't you tell us a little bit about your the National Coalition of Free Men?
Oh, I'd be delighted to. The National Coalition of Free Men, gentlemen, is a national organization founded in 1977. It is the only national organization with grassroots support, as well as some members who live abroad, that are interested in a wide range of topics affecting men. We have several chapters scattered around the country. There is a greater New York chapter. We have members in all 3 states of the tri-state area. That's New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. We have meetings once a month in Manhattan. We have a website. It is www.ncfm.org.
Okay.
And contact information is there. My phone number actually is there, or you can send an email. We'd be delighted to welcome new members wherever they may be in the tri-state area. And one of the benefits of membership is a subscription to our newsletter, Transitions. This is published every other month. It started out as a forum for members to exchange their ideas and perceptions about men's issues, but it's actually gained a lot of respect outside of the organization as well. So folks here in the tri-state area, we hope to see you at an NCFM meeting sometime soon.
Very good. It looks like you're doing good stuff there, and I hope to become a member.
That would be terrific.
Excellent. As far as if you want to make contact with us here at the Men's Forum, you can email at us at gcostanz@suffolk.lib.ny.us. And I'd like to thank you, gentlemen, for being my guests. Peter Allemano.